So yo, it is crazy mad windy out here. If this wind muff works, it's incredible. Panasonic S5, 20 to 60 kit lens, Purple Panda lavalier mic, Zoom H1N. Listen, I could have done this introduction to this video at home or in my car or some shit like that, but I love you so much that I wanted to do it in my favorite place up in Rhinebeck, New York, which I can't even get enough shots to show you how beautiful it is here because there's no like bridges close by or anything like that, but I come here a lot just to chill out, and I do a lot of writing up here. But anyway, I just wanted to explain a few things to you. I started this video with the intention of shooting with multiple aspect ratios, like delivering it in 4:3 and 2.39 to 1, like scope and 4:3. And I just could not figure out how to get that done. I mean, no matter what I did, I must be stupid or whatever. I can't figure it out. So I will figure it out eventually, but it's been, I wanted to get a video out. So there's so much beautiful footage in this video, and it's not B-roll, it's all A-roll, but I use my anamorphic lenses and I use this spherical lens to give you a comparison with a very similar perspective and point of view. And I'm also talking about some stuff that's really important to me. And it is fucking freezing out here right now, as you could probably tell. So I just wanted to tell you, multiple aspect ratios didn't work. So when you hear me alluding to that in the video, I couldn't figure it out. Like, I'm just not at that level of editing yet where I can get that together. I know I'm missing something so simple, but I just couldn't get it done. So anyway, otherwise, yeah, I hope you enjoy the video. And there's a lot of stuff in there that maybe you'll hate me after you hear it, but I don't know. I think that it's about being bold. It's about making choices with your work. It's about taking some responsibility with the gifts that you were given. It's about stepping up to the plate and realizing that this life out here that we're living, this world, this existence, this community that we're all sharing, which is like the whole world, just remember, it ain't all about you. I'm talking about the opportunity and the responsibility to do work that's somewhat meaningful. And I'm talking about during this time in our history, Like, I feel like artists have, a chance right now to contribute something great and unique that a lot of other people can't do, because there's so much talk on social media and on the news, if you can even figure out what the news is and what's not the news and what's propaganda or rhetoric or whatever. Artists can create these amazing stories that people can just kind of consider, Like, I think we have an opportunity to create stories that, make a bold statement, and that's what this video is about, being bold and standing on what you say, but also allow people to decide for themselves. Don't give people the answers. Don't tell people how to think. Don't tell people what their opinion should be, but lay out the details and lay out the facts. And I think that's what we have the opportunity to do, to lay out the facts. And as filmmakers, we can show the facts. So I would say, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to do that, but I'm going to say that you can do that if you figure it out. And I think that could possibly be the greatest contribution that anybody could make, to provide real facts, the truth, and then let people decide how they want to live for themselves, what they want in terms of education and healthcare and all that kind of stuff, immigration, who you want to live in your neighborhood, and who I think you should make people face their humanity, face themselves, really think about who they are and what they want for their family. And, I think still not everybody's going to agree. And there are a wide array of different types of people and people thinking in different ways in this country, coming from different cultures. I think it's really interesting to lay out everything and let people decide, on the American dream. Like, is the American dream the same for everybody? Do you think like me? You know, does somebody from New York City think the same way as somebody from Arizona or Alabama or North Carolina or California? Like, it's a gigantic country. There are people up in Maine who I have no idea how they live. North Dakota, South Dakota, like Alaska. I have no idea how these people live because I've never been to any of those places. You know, I've been to almost the whole country, but there are places I've never been. Montana. I don't know how people live up there, you know. I don't believe I've ever been to Alabama. I've been to probably 75% of the states in this country, and I've been around the world as well. But one thing I've learned is that people do have different points of view, different perspectives, and I think it's a great opportunity and, in my opinion, a responsibility to lay something out for people, whether it be a documentary style or a fictional story, and put something in front of people that disrupt them, possibly disturb them too, and make them consider who they are and what matters to them and what they're willing to lose and what they're willing to live with and what they're willing to fight for. I think that's something that could be really, really interesting and important. People rarely have points of view that are, like I say, really bold, like a really strong amount of conviction. And I think that as a filmmaker, and that's really what I'm focused on right now, I think as a filmmaker, that's a big problem, you know? Like, whatever you write about, you have to be bold about it, you know? You have to be really strong with your sense of conviction of that you believe in this subject, that you think this is a great story, this is a necessary story that everybody should hear. You think it's important, you think it's meaningful, you think it could cause some kind of change, you think it's disruptive. I think that's what's lacking, you know? And the other thing I think that's lacking is, I think this is a social media thing. And this, you know, again, this is my opinion. You know, you can feel free to tell me to fuck off at any time by just going to another video. But I think that social media and YouTube has created a bunch of really talented filmmakers. And again, I'm focusing on filmmakers who aspire to be good YouTube filmmakers. Like, that's all they want to do. And I think that the loss for all of humanity, to, you know, sound overly dramatic, but I do feel this way. The loss for all of humanity is that these talented, these gifted artists, these people who create these great videos, who don't have any aspiration other than to make YouTube videos, you don't realize that you're limiting your ability to reach people in a more meaningful way. Because if you're just doing it on YouTube, if you're just doing it on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, you might have a far reach, and you might even have a video that goes viral. But even a viral video just passes through somebody's timeline real quick. Nobody sits there and watches it for 2 hours. You know, for example, I just recently talked about, I saw the film Lee, and it just wrecked me. Like, it just broke me down. Like, I couldn't do anything the rest of the night. As a matter of fact, I couldn't even go to sleep. I had to leave my apartment and go out and walk around Poughkeepsie, New York in the middle of the night, which is not a great idea. But I just couldn't stay in my apartment. I couldn't sit still. I had to walk it off because I was so deeply affected by this film. And it's quite rare to be affected in that way by something. I'm just checking if I actually hit record here. Yes, I did. It's quite rare to be affected in that way by a video on YouTube. I think it can happen, of course, and I think it happens more often when it's something that's long-form content and you're actually willing to sit there and receive it. Because long-form content has an arc. You know, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. And as much as you could argue that short videos have that as well, there's no comparison. You know, exposition is a real thing. Character development is a real thing. A story development is a real thing. Like, life doesn't just happen like in a flash. You know, yes, certain things happen, like if you're in a car accident or whatever, but the real story is who was in that car, where they start, where were they going, what's behind it all, what's their family like, who else is going to be affected. What, you know, like, it's not just boom, this car accident. because that's like the point of view that a sociopath would take. Like, it's just a moment, like, boom, there was a car accident, and then 10 seconds later you're talking to whoever you're with saying, you want to eat Japanese or Indian tonight, you know? And meanwhile, this whole thing just happened. But if you watch a film or a long video, or if you watch something where there's, you know, this arc, you know, this story that develops along the way that takes a while to happen, that requires patience and paying attention and kind of immersing yourself in a world that's not everything happening all at the same time, you know, getting news in real time 24 hours a day, like, it requires you to stop and step away, you know, then you can be affected by it. Then it matters. I'm somebody who thinks that all of this YouTube stuff, all of this social media, Instagram, Facebook, short form content, it's nothing more than a bunch of commercials. And again, I'm not saying that people creating are not incredibly gifted, but I feel like they're wasting their talent. All right, so here's the gigantic difference between shooting anamorphic and spherical to get the same frame. I am, you know, shooting on the anamorphic lens now. I have basically the same frame that I had with the spherical lens, but as you can see, I can't go sit on the bench, because if I go to the bench back where I was, I'll look tiny. I was sitting right here, so I'll be so far away. So in order for me to fill the frame, and I should be kind of sort of in focus, I'm like 10 feet from the lens right now, and I'm trying to keep myself in the scope frame here, 2.39 to 1. You know, the difference between the anamorphic lens and a spherical lens is I was shooting at 22 millimeters the other day, or it was just below 24 millimeters because I was using a zoom lens. Now I'm shooting with the 35 millimeter APS-C anamorphic lens, and that's really like a 40 millimeter equivalent when you do all the math. And so unless I had like a 18 millimeter anamorphic lens, there's no way I can get the exact same look that I had before. It's just impossible. You can't do it. It's like having lenses with completely different focal lengths. So I have to figure out, you know, what I basically have to do is I have to do all my testing with the anamorphic lenses and make sure that I have the framing the way I want it. And if I wanted to have a shot like this where I'm sitting at the picnic table, I would have to have a picnic table closer to the lens, obviously. So, you know, obviously I can't just, you know, go back and forth. Even though I have a zoom lens, I'm not going to get the same perspective. The bridge is not going to fit, or it's going to be too wide. You know, it's just not going to be the same because I have a completely different perspective, a different focal length. But it's totally worth it using this lens because look how good it looks. I mean, I'm shooting it at f5.6 right now, and so I'm not really getting the complete beauty of the anamorphic, you know, lens, the anamorphic look. But if I put it wide open, you'll see a big difference. I could see if you just want to be a full-time YouTuber and just earn a living here, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I guess it's better than, you know, working in a coal mine or working, you know, for the MTA on, you know, taking, you know, sitting there and watching people go through the turnstile to get on the trains. And yeah, I suppose it's better than that. But if you're gifted like that, if you have that kind of ability, if you're talented, if you're a great storyteller, why not look at that as a responsibility to contribute to other people in a way that's more than just, you know, watch the video real quick and it's gone. I mean, is that all you want? Is that all we aspire to? I think that's what's wrong with society right now. People are not aspiring to really contribute. They're just trying to get a lot of likes. They're trying to get a lot of views. They're trying to get a lot of comments. They're trying to engage on YouTube. But really all they're trying to do is earn a living on YouTube. They don't really care about anything. And yeah, that's a bold statement. I don't think, you know, I think if this is all you aspire to, I don't think you really care about much. You know, I think you enjoy what you do, but you know, look at what's happening in this country right now. You know, I watched a video this morning about a woman from Canada who was detained at a border down in San Diego, was taken to a detention center and placed in a jail cell without being able to call anybody, without any explanation, with not one person talking to her for the 12 days that she was detained. And by the way, she was moved to 3 other detention centers at that time, during that 12 days. She met people, she met a woman who had been there for 10 months, who had not had the opportunity to talk to anybody, not make a phone call, do nothing. Like, imagine somebody in your family has just disappeared. Imagine that. And they don't have a chance to call you, they don't have a chance to do anything. You know, I mean, what I'm saying right now could be a documentary, it could be a movie. Somebody could go talk to that girl and tell a story about it, and that is significant, because no matter who you voted for, no matter what your political bent is or whatever, I think unless, I'm going to use this word again, unless you're a sociopath, I don't think that you could possibly be the kind of person who would not care about something like that, where something like that would not disturb you deeply. All right, so now we're looking in a completely different direction. I can't get exactly what I'm trying to get right now, but I think I'm pretty close, and I know because I'm using the entire sensor, I'm getting 4x3 out of this shot, I'll be able to move this up and down and adjust everything in post. So I won't get exactly what I want behind me, but I'll get at least me in the frame. You know, what I wanted to talk about real quick before I shut this down, because it's cold out here, is, you know, don't ever feel like you are limited if you have a camera and even one lens. You know, like I was just talking about, you know, I don't have exactly what I need to get the shot that I wanted to get for you today, but this is a YouTube video, you know, and if I really wanted to figure it out, I would go get my little retractable stool and I would have put it right here in front of the camera and pretty much gotten exactly what I wanted. But it's freezing out here, the car is pretty far away, I didn't feel like walking all the way back there, so I'm not going to do that. But I'm still getting some beautiful shots out here and some really good footage, because this lens is beautiful and this camera is amazing. And so if you have something like a Panasonic S5 and you have something like a Siri 35mm anamorphic lens, you have pretty much everything you need. I also have a Boya shotgun mic on top of the camera right now, so it's capturing some of the audio, but I'm pretty shitty, I'm sure, because I'm 10 feet away. But I have my Purple Panda lavalier mic, and I have my trusty Zoom H1N audio recorder, and so obviously I can make a feature film like this. I don't really need anything else. I mean, it would be challenging because I'm pretty limited with focal length and stuff like that, but it's not so challenging that I can't get it done. You know, the most important thing is for me to write a script, to have an engaging story, to have something that I feel is important enough to spend the time to make, and to, you know, take your time and have you want to pay attention to it. Like, make sure that it's something that is meaningful, you know. And also, always recognize that no matter what you do, no matter what you have, it's always really, really good practice. I'm looking around because even though it's raining and there's hardly anybody here, there were some shady characters walking around before, and they were kind of circling around me when I was recording before. So I'm just trying to keep my head up right now to be prepared if somebody wants to try to jack my shit. So again, you know, I think that sometimes well, it's not I'm just going to say a lot of people focus on the things that they don't have as opposed to what they do have. And I think that they use that as an excuse to not do anything. You know, like, oh, if I only had, you know, the full range of the focal length that I need, like if I had an 18, a 24, a 35, a 50, an 85, and a 105, then I could do the project. If I only had a camera that had better stabilization, or if I only had a camera that had, you know, more dynamic range or better color science, or, you know, if the I'm sorry, there's a beautiful boat going by that you're going to get to see in a second. If I only had a camera that had a faster readout so it could control, you know, the image better when I move things around faster, like if I only had that, it's like it's all bullshit. You could do anything with what you have. So now I'm kind of just talking and stalling because I want you to see this boat that's about to come through, and you can see these birds flying by on the river. This is the Hudson River. The Mid-Hudson Bridge was in the other shot. That's the Poughkeepsie pedestrian bridge, which is the longest pedestrian bridge in the world. I think if you don't take the opportunity to use your gift, to use your talent, to use your heart and your soul to create things that are more extended, more thought about, where you have to write a script. You have to actually write a script and develop these people, or think about how to tell this story, how to really get in there. You become like an investigative reporter, like a journalist, if you're doing documentary work. Or even if you're creating, you know, a fictional story, you're still investigating. You're figuring out, how does this work? What's the arc? What are the ups and downs? What are the problems that need to be solved? What are the obstacles that need to be overcome? You know, where is the resilience in this story? Where's something that inspires people and, you know, leaves people with something that they can take away and be better for, be moved, you know, feel like they have to go out and do shit. So yeah, you know what? My whole thing is just like, be bold. I'm going to stay right here. I like YouTube. I think YouTube is incredible. 60 million people are creating on YouTube. That means there are millions and millions more watching, because take those people plus the people who are not creating. That's an incredible opportunity, but use YouTube as your commercial. Use it as your trailer, as your teaser, and get people to get to your regular website. Get them to get to the streaming services, or get them to see your longer form content here on YouTube, you know, where you're actually doing something that's moving people and making them do something, you know, more contributing than what they're doing now. You know, use it as a responsibility. You know, take this as your responsibility to make an offering to people that they can take and better themselves, and then they can pass that along to somebody else, and so on and so on and so forth. I'm shooting, what is the aperture? Oh, okay, so I got the aperture set to f2.8, so that's kind of the equivalent of f5.6 if it were not an APS-C lens. Did I mention there's an APS-C lens? So it's not a full frame lens. So this 35 millimeter is a 52 millimeter, but then you have to divide by the 1.33 squeeze factor, so it comes out to about a 40 millimeter lens, which is actually my favorite focal length. 40 millimeters to me is perfect for everything I like to do. That's one of the reasons I want to shoot this movie with this lens, because I get to shoot at my favorite focal length, the focal length that is what the world looks like to me. It's what I'm used to, it's the way I see the world. And then I also have the 75 millimeter, which is kind of like the equivalent of an 85, so I can get the close-ups and that dramatic kind of thing that you want when there are, you know, like really emotional moments in a film. So I'll be able to get those. The other thing I want to mention is the downside of an anamorphic lens is that I can't get too close. There's a minimum focusing distance that is probably 2.5, 3 feet, something like that. So even if I was this close, I couldn't focus it. I have to be at least 3.5 feet away from the lens. So you see the boat, you see the birds flying around, see how foggy and moody and beautiful it is out here. This is my favorite kind of day to shoot, and now I can go back to the other part of the video. I might as well let you see this train too. Like now I'm shooting wide open, so now you're getting more of the anamorphic goodness. I don't know if you even notice, you know, I do, definitely. But might as well check out the train. And I should be not really in focus, but I'm so far away it doesn't matter. But I'm focused on the trains back there. So how does this lens do focusing really far away? I love when these old freight trains go by here. Pretty cool. Feels very vintage, you know, like old town kind of thing. Pretty beautiful. Yeah, I live in a cool place. And I'm only a train ride from my beloved New York City too, so that's pretty cool. Nice. It's frustrating to me. You know, I've seen a bunch of videos over the last couple of weeks. I've been kind of studying this, and I just noticed that everybody's mad. You know, these creators are mad and they're frustrated, and they have actual like mental health breakdowns because their YouTube channels are not doing well. because they're focused on the wrong shit. You're focused. You know what? I just had a video recently where I got a ton of views, right? But I noticed I didn't get as many comments as I usually get. Sometimes I'll get 100 views, but 100 comments. But I got a video that had many more views, but not as many comments. And to me, that just means that maybe the YouTube algorithm put it out there to a few more people, but it didn't mean anything to anybody. You know, like I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. I am monetized, I am making some money on YouTube, but I ain't making enough money to even pay my electric bill. I'm here to make you want to see more of what I do. I'm here to contribute a video like this, where I'm trying to tell you to do more. I'm trying to tell you to use your talent, to use your gift. Don't be selfish with it. You don't live on this earth by yourself. We live in a society, you know? You live in communities, you live in cities, you live in towns, you live in countries. It ain't all about you. You know, if you're a gifted artist, you have the opportunity to make things better, to bring things up, to protest, to lift things that you think are good, to, you know, criticize things that you think are bad and stand on why you think that is. You know, because hopefully it's from a humanist point of view. And so, anyway. One of the perks of living up here, getting to see these old freight trains. Pretty cool. In all my anamorphic goodness right here. I just feel like if you're a great filmmaker, if you're really gifted, if you're talented, you know, if you know your way around a camera and lenses and focal lengths and aperture and white balance and dynamic range and all of it, you know, if you really know what you're doing, and if you are a great storyteller, if you're somebody who can engage people, who can immerse people in these beautiful stories, if you can get to people's attention and get them to stop for a minute, which is highly unusual in this day and age, because people are just doing this all day. They're just like, you know, scrolling through their lives. Nothing is sticking, nothing is staying. Everything is just like going by the timeline. If you're somebody who has the ability to capture people's attention, to keep them in the moment, why not do something meaningful? Why not take advantage of what you have and contribute to this world that is so uncertain right now for so many people? Like, there's a lot of stuff going on that you could write about, but not in a YouTube video. Unless you do it long form. Like, I am starting to believe that YouTube is a place where you can do meaningful work, but you can't do it in 5 or 10 minutes. You can do a teaser. I mean, that's called a trailer, okay? That's what gets you interested in watching something. But if you don't go beyond the trailer, if you don't go beyond that 10 or 17 minutes or whatever, short films are made for people to get opportunities to make feature films. And you know, any director, any filmmaker who's making short films who tells you that that's all they want to do, they're lying to you. They want the opportunity to do a real story, a whole thing. Why do you think somebody like Danny Gewirtz went and made a feature film and probably spent a ton of his own money, got money from another YouTuber, raised money, and I don't know if he made enough money to be like, oh, success, now I have millions of dollars. He did it because he had a really important story. It's called I Think I'm Sick. Go find it. I'll put a link to it in my description. But, you know, Danny Gewirtz is a huge YouTuber. But he wanted to make a feature film because a feature film had character development, had a story development, had exposition, had all the stuff. And it was about something so important. It was about suicide. It was about mental health. It was a real story, something that, you know, will change somebody's life forever. Be bold with your perspective and your point of view. Like, pick something and be bold with it. Even if it's looking at both sides of the coin, be diligent with your work. Like, really research everything and show everything. And show people who feel very strongly about how they feel. and how, maybe this person and this person have different perspectives on what's going on, but you can really understand why each of them feel that way, because you've showed this background, you've showed where they come from, who their families are, what they do during the day, what their jobs are, what their lives are like, where they live, what's going on in their neighborhood, in their community, in their state, their country, their village, whatever. You've shown it so that it is complicated, it is complex. And let the audience have the opportunity to imagine and to figure it out for themselves, or maybe not even figure it out, but more importantly, consider it. Like, consider things that are not just about them. With beautiful art, with an amazing film, with something gorgeous and magnificent and entertaining. Make it funny sometimes. Comedy is amazing, especially when it comes around to a moving, serious moment. And again, it doesn't have to be life and death, but it always has to be something, there has to be something at stake. There has to be something where somebody might lose something, or somebody might gain something they've been trying to gain for their whole lives. But there's loss involved in that too, possibly, because what if they don't get it? What if they put all their cards on the table and then they don't get it? What if they put all their cards on the table and they take this great risk, and it involves not only them, but their family and their friends and maybe their community, and then what if they get it? What if they get all kinds of flack on the way? What if people don't believe in them? What if people tell them they're crazy? What if people tell them that they're insane? What if people turn on them and then they get it? Or what if people support them and encourage them and give them everything and, put air under their wings, give them money, give them resources, keep pushing them. Everybody gets involved. Everybody gets invested for this one thing that's going to turn everything around. And what if they don't get there? If you learn about the relationships that they have with these people, what that community is like, what they do, who they are in that community, who these other people are that they love, who they hang out with, what kind of music they listen to, what kind of movies do they like, what kind of food do they eat, where do they sleep, where do they love, how do they love. If you get all of that together and then you put together a story with some risk, some stake, that's amazing. And so in this world right now, with all this stuff going on and so many people upset, and look, nobody, I don't care what your political bent is right now, you can't deny that there are so many people in this country who are upset right now, Republican and Democrat and independent, everybody. And people from other countries who live here. People who thought they were here safely with green cards, with visas, are suddenly possibly being revoked. People are on edge. People are upset. I think people need art. I mean, journalism is at risk. They don't know who to trust. They don't know who to turn to for the truth, for answers. At least you can give them a story that you research inside out. Like everything you put in there, Like I always tell people, don't ever write anything that you don't know. And if you don't know it, write up until that point and then ask the questions. But ask them intelligently and in an entertaining way and in a moving way. Get people's hearts swollen. Get them to really need to know what's going on. And then if you leave them hanging, get them to figure it out themselves. Decide what's right and hopefully guide them to the most empathetic place, the most human place, the most, the place that brings people together. I mean, I think that's what our intention should be right now, always. Bring people together, even if they don't agree, even if they have different, ideas of destinations. I think we have to push humanity. We have to push love. I think it's really important. So that's what I'm really talking about in this video, along with letting you see the differences in these anamorphic lenses and then a 35mm anamorphic compared to a spherical lens in the same aspect ratio with basically the same kind of frame. I mean, I think it's fun to, look at the differences, and then you could decide, does it really make a difference? Does it really look different? Most importantly, does it feel different? Is there something going on in your heart when you look at anamorphic compared to spherical, or does it not make any difference at all? There must be a time where you pick up the camera and you say to yourself, I have to do something important. I have to contribute something. I have something to say that I think is important that people are not getting. I just think we're losing that bold quality that people had before we had, you know, our brains being overrun with all this minutia, all this bullshit, 24 hours a day, where you can't settle on anything. You can't think about one thing because you got everything. You're just being bombarded with everything. And it's a waste of your life. What a great way to end this video. Please subscribe. Please hit the like button. And please consider joining my Patreon. I'm like, that's what I'm really trying to do, is to build up my Patreon, because I want Patreon to be where I can really share my behind the scenes and get feedback. It reminds me of the way I've developed work for many, many years, where I've rehearsed in the streets, you know, in the parks, all over the world. But, you know, at the beginning, just in New York City and down in Asbury Park, New Jersey, where I was going back and forth for a while. And Patreon is a place where I can get real feedback along the way as I'm creating this work. You know, you'll get a lot of stuff there that you don't get here, and you'll join a community of people that are amazing, some like-minded people who really appreciate art and who are incredibly supportive of my work, which, you know, I can't overstate how much that means to me. So consider that, please. And yeah, that's all I got to say from this part of this video. You like this kind of look? Window behind me, so I got a backlight. I got a key light right here. I got a light all the way against the wall that kind of gives me a little bit to make sure this is just not pitch black, but it looks like it might be coming from the room over there. I tried to make everything look real, so did I do okay? Maybe I failed. I don't know. I didn't take much time doing it, so I don't know, but I did my best for today. All right.